3, the second part of verse 3, the Ruach, the Spirit, lifted me between the earth and heaven. He brought me in visions of God to Jerusalem, to the door of the gate of the inner court, to the temple, basically. Verse 4, behold, the glory of the God of Israel was there. So I lifted my eyes toward the north, and behold, the north gate of the altar was an image provoking jealousy in the entrance. There was in verse 5, at the end of verse 5, an idol, an image provoking jealousy, an idol in the temple. Verse 6, he meaning the Spirit, he said to me, Son of man, do you see what they're doing? The great abominations that the house of Israel is committing here that drives me far off from my own sanctuary? But you will see even greater abominations. And in verse 7, he brought me to the door of the court, and I looked, and behold, a hole in the wall. Then he said to me, Son of man, now dig through the wall. When I had dug through the wall, there was a door. He said, go and see what wicked abominations they do here. So I went and saw, and behold, verse 10, every detestable image of creeping things and beasts of all the idols of the house of Israel engraved on the surrounding walls. They were carving idols into the walls of the sanctuary. Verse 11, standing before these idols were 70 men of the elders of the house of Israel. What is that? What is the 70 men of elders? It is the great Sanhedrin, made up of 70 men. Each man with a censer in his hand. In other words, they were worshiping in the temple idols. The Sanhedrin, the great Sanhedrin. Members of the great Sanhedrin. Verse 12, and he said to me, Son of man, do you see what the elders of the house of Israel do in the dark? Every man in his chamber with his carved idol. For they say, Adonai does not see us. Adonai has forsaken the land. Lack of faith. Further, he said to me, you will see verse 13, you will see greater abominations that they are doing. And he brought me to the door of the gate of Adonai's house, which was toward the north, and behold, women sat there weeping for Tammuz, another god of regeneration and spring. Verse 16, he brought me into the inner court of Adonai's house, and behold, the door of the temple, Adonai, between the porch and the altar. There were about 25 men with their backs toward the temple, turning their back on the Holy of Holies, their face turning toward the east. So basically, when you read the book of Jeremiah and you get to the end, chapter 48, the Babylonians come and destroy Solomon's temple. And that's when they took, that was the final deportation. They destroyed the temple and killed many, and killed probably 1 million, and took the implements of the temple, sacked the temple, and burned it to the ground. And that was a turning point for the nation of Israel. So they had to go into exile. That was the second turning point. This turning point here of the rejection of Christ, saying he was demon possessed, is the third turning point. And in 70 years, in 40 years, in 70 AD, the Romans, Titus the general, would come and destroy Jerusalem. Not one stone would be, as in Matthew 24, would be left upon another. Kill over 1 million Jews. There was a Jerusalem forest that the Romans cut down to make crosses. They crucified so many Jews. So, the rejection of Christ is this third turning point for the nation of Israel. Jesus did not miss a beat. The Bible tells us that on the very day that he was rejected, he began speaking in parables. And I've given you a handout called Four Drastic Changes. 4 drastic changes. And his whole ministry changed on a dime. The purpose of his miracles was to convince the nation that he was the Messiah. Once he was rejected, the purpose of his miracles changed to the teaching of his apostles. So his purpose changed from the nation to apostles. Before his rejection, he did not ask for any statement of faith from the people that he healed or gave food to. The feeding of the 5,000, many didn't necessarily believe, they just came for healing or food. Some people demonstrated faith, some didn't, but he didn't ask for a demonstration of faith before he healed them. After his rejection, it required a statement of faith. So it changed from no faith to faith. Before his rejection, his message was, go tell everyone. Go tell everyone what the Lord has done for you. Why? Why did he want everybody to know? Because he was trying to reach the nation as a whole to convince the nation that he was the Messiah. After his rejection, he would heal somebody and he would say, tell no one. He was no longer interested. He knew he was headed for the cross. He knew he was headed for the cross. So there was no need to convince the nation anymore, so he would say, tell no one. And lastly, his method of teaching changed. Before his rejection, he taught clearly in parables. His teaching was clear. His teaching was clear. After his rejection, he only spoke in parables. He would say, those with an ear, let him hear. So those of faith could listen to the parable and understand what it meant. Without faith, it sounded like Meshuggah. It was like, they're crazy. They're all mixed up. They didn't understand. They didn't understand a thing. So his 4 drastic changes, his purpose from nation to apostles, the people from faith to no faith. His message was from telling no one to tell everyone to tell no one, and his method was from clear teaching to parables. Even though the rabbis taught there were 3 messianic miracles, they did not even wait for the 3rd messianic miracle to make their decision. Actually, they made their decision after the 1st messianic miracle. And when they came all the way up to Capernaum, they brought him a mute demon, guy was possessed by a mute demon. When he healed them, even though he healed them, they declared that they had already thought this out. They said, how are we going to explain these miracles away? What are we going to say to people? We can't deny, they could not deny the miracles. Everybody knew he was doing miracles. So the way they denied the miracle, the way they denied his messiahship, they couldn't deny the miracles, but the way they denied his messiahship was he has this power because of Satan, which was a turning point. 40 years later, Titus would come and, it's interesting, at one point in the Gospels they said, well, if we say this is the guy's the Messiah, we'll lose our position everything we have, so we can't do that. And then the irony was, 40 years later, that's exactly what happened. They lost their position and everything they had when the Romans came and destroyed Jerusalem and either killed them or took them into captivity. The second set of feasts point to Christ's second coming. Rosh Hashanah, trumpets. Yom Kippur, or the Day of Atonement, and Tabernacles, or Sukkot. So the boom, 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 they happen very quickly within 2 weeks of each other. Boom, boom, boom.